What's the point of playing the game? Is it about winning? Because I'm sure we probably don't want to lose, right? But what happens if you lose? Are you actually losing? Well, that's all a matter of opinion, because the thing is, you can definitely win, or you can choose to learn instead of lose. And this ends up being the biggest piece of advice that, funnily enough, gets beaten out of us. Not necessarily literally, but in a very true, literal, metaphorical sense when it comes to our system and typical school. Because, dear goodness, should you get something wrong on your test and get the mark off, or you do something wrong or you forget to do something the right way and you get scolded for it. Because, frankly, it only makes sense that a lot of people would then be worried about getting something wrong. Why bother if I'm just going to end up losing, right? It's a very common feeling for a lot of people. Why even compete if I'm not going to be number one? And you're going to, of course, hear some simple advice like, well, it's not all about winning, Jimmy. You know, it's important, it's just about having fun and playing the game. No, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's all about just, having fun and blah, blah, blah. No, it is about winning. But the point is that you're not just only confined to win or lose. You can learn too. And from there, making ultimately sure not that you win the most games, or at least are not the one that loses the most games, but can you simply be the person who is invited to play the game the most often? Because if you get invited to play the most games over the course of time with enough repetition, well, who else but you is going to end up having the most amount of wins, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today in this class, going all about winning, not losing, and the importance of learning. Welcome and welcome back to today's class. All right, winning. That's honestly what it's about. For myself growing up, I played a lot of different sports. Flag football to baseball, basketball, soccer, swimming, track, cross country, water polo, and then I messed around with different things from there. So after messing around with those different things, it had really taught me, obviously, the things like teamwork and collaboration and coordination and organization, but also the same in the desire to compete and the beauty in competition. Because playing a game, at least in these, there wasn't this massive overarching purpose per se, but there was a tremendous amount of value because of the game playing. And so I want to really talk about, when we go over winning, losing, and learning, this idea of competing. Competition ultimately comes from the same place as it means to conspire. And so with this, we are in competition with one another. We are conspiring with one another because we are competing against each other. Not to say that I'm literally better than you in all ways, but in the terms of, in this context, I may be better, but you can always improve and I can always improve. And I think that we can both agree. By a certain point, for example, Olympians, to a certain point, talent, sure, but they work dang hard to get everything as close to right on top of a bit of luck for that day, making sure that their body happened to be at the literal best it could have been, and themselves at their literal best, and just happened to literally perform their literal best, right? I mean, that's just the case scenario when it comes to winning. You're not going to win every time. And so, unfortunately, you will end up losing at times. But a loss does not have to be a loss. You don't have to lose. It can always be a win, because what did you learn? And learning can show up in so many different ways, but how do you get to learn if you don't get to compete? And if it's not competing with someone else, are you at least trying to compete with yourself? Are you allowing yourself to celebrate a win every day? Or are you walking through life feeling like you lost because you're not even willing to play the game? You're not even willing to compete. How could someone ever win if you don't play? You're definitely not going to learn either. So you're only subjugated to that one option, lose. Do you want to continue to lose, right? This whole idea of being a loser, because losers don't play the game. People that play the game eventually win, no matter what. You can suck at the game, but play enough, wouldn't you not only eventually become good, but just a matter of luck, timing, and whatever else, you end up winning. But either way, I think it's very easy to agree that you would definitely learn something. If not about the game and how to win the next time, about yourself and how you could have been better. But this, of course, also comes back to the very underlying philosophical need within you to actually want to learn, right? To be coachable, to be willing to learn and take the advice, whether from someone else or from the game. Because again, it's not always about winning, although that is the priority. But ultimately, more than having fun is that you continue to get to play the game. Look, I can confidently say from playing real sports and even playing like esports and video games, it always feels the same way to lose. Shitty. Yeah, of course. It's not awesome to lose. My heart doesn't sing, right? I have all this freaking adrenaline now from desperately trying to win and then losing, right? And I wish I could have won. But at least now I finished the game. I got to have some momentary points. Maybe if I'm playing video games, it's like, oh crap, do I play another one? Right? Play the game with the alarm clock tomorrow morning and how the next day will feel? No. But so for yourself, right? It's taking advantage of those moments to reflect, to be the human and use the capabilities, the superpowers that we have of abstraction, of introspection, to see, wow, looking back in my internal footage catalog, I remember that moment and that moment and that moment, and when this person was doing that and I was doing this, and how I was feeling in that moment, and how maybe I think they might have been feeling in that moment, and had I done this, maybe that would have happened. Heck, you might have had those types of conversations when you got into an argument with somebody and you left, you're in the car and you're just running it straight through your head like, fuck, that would have been so much better if I had said that. Dang it. Oh, I almost want to get back into another argument just so I can make that better point, right? And it's the same idea. You don't even notice that you're innately trying to learn, because you don't want to lose. No one wants to lose. Everyone wants to win. But so from there, it comes back to learning, replaying that footage in our heads and seeing, how could I have done better? How can I improve? Because when it comes to winning, it's going to come from extreme ownership. You could read the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. I think he does it very well. But this idea of extreme ownership, this idea of taking and assuming the highest amount of responsibility for yourself. Now, the caveat or the trouble here is that if you're not careful and you set too high of an expectation, and I encourage you, continue to set high expectations, but be mindful to how you are with yourself with those expectations, okay? I encourage you. I don't care how you are. You could be someone that is incredibly harsh on yourself. Cool. That does not, I am not giving you, look, let me say this again. I am not giving you justification to not set high expectations and high standards. That's not what I'm saying here right now. But what I am saying is that if you know that you are a hypercritical person, simply be mindful to that, keep the high expectations, and drop the hypercriticality, okay? That's what matters here. The hypercriticality is clearly burdening you, okay? It's this idea of perfectionism. Fuck perfection. It's not possible. We are not God. That's not going to happen. And if you don't believe in God, then sure, that's fine. We can agree to that too. Either way, there is still this fact that perfection is not going to happen, okay? It's just not a thing, right? There will be new iterations that get slightly closer to perfect, but you nor I will not be perfect. I think those were double negatives, but you get the idea. We're not going to be perfect. And so we must try our best to simply get back in the game, create more iterations, and keep trying, keep learning from those attempts. And then eventually, if we haven't won yet, I guarantee you we will. It's like Thomas Edison when he was making the light bulb. It's not that he found 1,000 ways to, it's not that he fucked up or he did not find. I'm really screwing this one up, but Thomas Edison, when he was making the light bulb, it's not that he failed 1,000 times. It is that Thomas Edison, as he stated, found 1,000 ways to not make a light bulb. Thomas Edison had 1,000 times where he could have said, I failed, but instead chose to say, I learned. You have the same choice every single moment too. Did you learn? And if you didn't win, why not have learned? Why do we have to lose? We don't. We can take it as a learning opportunity, put ourselves back in the game, and keep playing until we do win. Because yes, the point is to win. It's not just to have fun. But we will have fun in the process of learning and growing. And this is how we continue to learn how to trust ourselves and succeed in the modern age and for every other age that we ever get, encountered with. Personally, professionally, you know where I'm going with that. So with this, if you found value in it, share it to your friends and family so that they know too. Engage with us on our socials. Drop your takeaways in the comments below, and we will see you in the next Gen Ed class. Have a good one.